Oh, Ginger. Okay.
You see, the process is not very complicated. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Yeah,
Na
Shangazi Karola, karibu pia. Carola, if you can hear me, apologies. I know you're also having internet and electricity challenges. So I hope we'll be able just to proceed before you get cut off. I hope that that doesn't happen. Carola, if you can hear me, karibu sana. I just want to do a quick mic check with you, kuona kama nakupata ama unanipata before we can proceed. Okay, it seems probably Carola is having challenges, as I said. So she'll be joining us, hopefully. I'm saying she's already here, but probably she's having a bit of technical...
Halo, unanipata sasa?
Nakupata shangazi, karibu sana.
Sawa, nilikuwa nikisijabonyeza the right thing. Lucky enough I have a Gen Z here.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah, sasa niko poa.
No, nakupata. Pole sana kwa changamoto. On my end pia, I think my internet ni kama pia inaweza kuwa inanipea changamoto kidogo, but we'll proceed in the interest of time and just to be on the safe side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa.
Okay, so karibu sana.
Sasa another question kabla hujaenda. Wakati niache speaker iwe on all the time au niweke off na on kama niache tu on all the time speaker?
No, you can mute ili sauti zisiingiliane sana. Ndio tuweze kupatana. Yeah, so I think when you're speaking you can turn the mic on.
Yes.
And when you're done speaking, ndio sasa unaweza turn off.
Okay, all right.
Sawa.
Understood. Asante.
Good. Okay. I think we can just start. Karibuni sana. Good evening, everybody. Sorry, Shangazi, let me mute you. Ama, are you able to mute on your end?
Me?
Hello. Let me just touch on it. Yeah, good. Yes, Sasa, now that's better. So I think we can kick off the conversation. Karibuni sana. My name is Joy on behalf of Mwanzo TV. And first of all, my apologies if my voice is a bit hoarse and raspy this evening. I'm down with a very bad flu. Can all understand whether na vile mambo iko. So I'll try my best to be as audible as possible and just to have the conversation going so we can hear from our two lovely ladies this evening. So tonight we are discussing something that's very interesting for us, rather Mwanzo and me, because it's something that it's real. How women are using music and art to drive social change. And we have two very good examples here. We are going to hear from them tonight. Very distinguished entertainers, if I may say, or they'll give us the correct terms to address them, and they'll just take us through what they're doing in their different fields of work or arts to, drive change and conversation in society. They'll take us through the way art works in real life and what misconceptions we have or what opportunities are there. So probably you can think a song can reach someone who would never attend a protest, of course. Same thing to a poem. It can name something that people are afraid to say out loud. A performance can also build a community in a place where we feel alone. And that is what these two women are aiming to highlight in the society. So they'll take us through what inspires their works, what happens when the message they're trying to pass across becomes uncomfortable truths in the society or among people who look up to them. They'll also be telling us as activists and as social change makers how they manage to stay bold and stay safe while still being vocal in these spaces. So I think, let me say this before we start. People sometimes act like art is neutral, but of course it's not. There's much more to it. Even just choosing what story to tell is a big decision. And particularly for women, as women, visibility alone can be political even before the message has been delivered. Where am I going with all this? What I mean is we're not here to romanticize activism. We're here to understand the craft and the courage behind it and what impact looks beyond all the hype they may receive and all the applause and all the roses that you may see them getting. So briefly, we have, as I mentioned, Carola Kinasha. She's from Tanzania. And we have Lydia Dola from Kenya. So briefly, if I may mention, before I start with Carola, her work sits at the intersection of creativity and social conversation. We've had the chance to interview her on our Shangazi Power series, which is just basically a docu-series that highlights, or amplifies the voices of women change makers in society. That's Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And for Carola, her work sits between creativity and social conversation, and she represents the kind of voice that on Shangazi Power, the voice that we try to amplify, women who use art to shift what communities talk about and how they talk about it, basically how they implement it. So Carola, if I may start with you, as you introduced yourself and your origin story, when did you realize your art, rather in terms of your music potential, could do more than just entertain audiences, that it could, move people, challenge the society, or even comfort people? Carola, karibu sana. Feel free to speak in English, Kiswahili, whichever you're comfortable in. So take us through just what pushed you into using music as a tool for social change.
Hello, Joy. Thank you very much for having me here.
Karibu.
Can you hear me? First, I have to check that all the time because I have some people here. Do you hear any background noise, or is that me only?
Just a bit, but you're audible enough.
Okay. So for me, I cannot really place a date or a year when I started using my music as as a weapon of activism. But what I can say is my own story, my own life story. The era I was born up to today is I lived through all generations of Tanzania. From Mwalimu. When Mwalimu Nyerere was retiring, I was already in first year university. And so for me, activism was not something that I had to pick on the street, because I grew in an era where activism was everything. It was our way of life. Everybody was an activist because all of us Africans were fighting for something. And Tanzania was known to be one of the places as a hub of probably all liberation movements of Africa were there. And I was even privileged to go to school with people who were the Soweto uprising kids were that is my generation. So those who came to Tanzania as refugees, some of them were my neighbors, some of them were people I went to school with. So I think I cannot place it, but it looks like it's something I've lived with throughout my whole life. Because at that time, even though rules and regulations were always in place to control certain things, at that time our voice was one. All of us were fighting for the same thing. So the leaders and us and everybody, we were all on the same page in terms of what we wanted as Tanzanians and as Africans. So I cannot really place and say, hey, I started at this time or this age. It has been something that I've lived with all my life. And I was also privileged to be introduced by one of my elder sisters. I have a number of them. She introduced me to Miriam Makeba and her story, her struggles, the fact that she was in Tanzania the year I was born. I think she was already in Tanzania working with Nyerere, gone to Kenya, to other places, doing amazing work as a musician and an activist. And we had people like that to emulate. That at that time, and then we had people like Fela who were, revolutionary, who were jailed for being vocal. Later on, now when now the revolution was no longer against colonialists alone, it was now against the people who took leadership and wore the shoes of the colonial masters. So for me to say that I started at a certain time, it will be a little bit shaky because I don't really know. All I know is all my life, because of the system of education that Nyerere gave us, and remember it was free education for everybody. I grew up in the village, but the same education I had in the village is the same education a person in Dar es Salaam had at that time. So there was that, Nyerere had that kind of balance. And at that time, bands were doing songs that were touching everybody because we were all on the same page. I think maybe later on we'll talk more about now when the challenges began and why. But at that time, we were all more or less on the same page, and we were all, raising our voices against colonialists. We were all raising our voices against apartheid. We were going to school, as I said, I went to school with some of the Soweto uprising kids who came to Tanzania and not everything we did was revolutionary. Everything we did was revolutionary at that time. So we were all on the same page. So I cannot say exactly when, but I think the fact that I was born and bred in Tanzania made me aware of the strength of music and other forms of arts in fighting for independence or fighting for anything that you believe in. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Yes, nimekupata. Thank you. Thank you for that brief history about um, how you started this journey, and of course, you're going to take us through more of your moments of realization into this journey. But let me bring in Lydia. Um, so she's going to introduce herself more, but for me, just to mention, she's a Kenyan singer, or what she calls an artivist, yeah? And basically uses music and storytelling to speak about society in a way that feels relatable, in a way that feels human, and not in the way that we are used to hearing sort of a preaching method on our ears. And for her, same as Carola, she sits in a space where art meets community, and where her art can carry a message further than just speech. Lydia, karibu sana. So just as we are talking about how women are using their art to drive social change, take us through where it all started for you. What pushed you into this into this space? Was it a moment or a slow realization? How did you end up becoming Lydia Dollar?
Asante sana. Lydia Dollar, I started music fast. I think I loved music. So I started music when I was a teenager, and I joined. My elder sister was an activist, and I loved what they did because they used mostly drama and theater for social change. And I went for an audition, and the first time I went there, I went as a musician and I sang, and they loved my music. So that was it. That was just it. That's how I started doing music for social change, and um, and that's how I thought of music and education, like edutainment, and I thought because I loved art so much, which was my first love, and that's where um, I realized I was a musician before I realized I was an activist because I was like just a teenager. So I thought this is art and then there's education. And I thought, why don't I mix the two? And that's how I came up with the name, the Artivist, because there's art and there's activism. And then through activism, there's a lot of education. And that's how now the name Dola, actually they call me Dola, the Artivist. So that's where it came from, using art for social change. What else? What else did you ask?
Yes, I just wanted to know what was that moment that you realized what you're doing, it can actually you know change something in the society, or how did you just say, this is what I want to focus on moving forward, this is what I want people to know me for, and this is the message that I'm speaking, different from the kawaida artists and poets out there that we hear about, or rather general entertainers?
Mm. Yeah. So sorry. I kind
No
of
worries. Yeah.
I kind of missed that. There's a little bit of
I think ni mvua imezidi
yeah,
sana
there's a lot of
huku.
rain and there's a lot of
Yeah,
backing. So
yeah,
I kind of missed that. But yeah,
yeah.
please come again. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, so from that moment when you realized you can use art to communicate or bring social change or stand out and be different from the rest of the entertainers in the industry or the poets. Did you ever worry about how people would label you, or what was that moment that just made you feel like, this is what I want to move with going forward? This is how I want people to label me.
I wasn't so afraid of what people wanted to say because it came from the heart. I think activism is like a calling. It's not just like music. Sometimes music is good, like music for for the limelight, that's okay. If you want to be known for just singing and entertaining people, that's okay. But uh, there's music that comes from the heart. When you look at how the community suffers or what is happening to a certain group of people, for instance, women, and what they're going through, you actually fit in their shoes. You put yourself in their shoes, and you know it's who I am. It is who I am, and there's nothing I can do to change that because I don't want to change who I am. And when I see, for instance, somebody going through agony, or if there is no good governance, I feel like I have to speak about it. And the best way for me to speak about it is through music and writing. And that's the only way I'm able to express myself and feel like this actually belongs. Or I actually belong to this kind of topic that I want to talk about, and I want to feel what this other person is feeling. Or if I'm singing about the environment, I want to feel what Mother Earth is feeling, you know. And so I write a song about that, and I present it that way. So I don't usually look so much at how somebody will look at me, because this is what I want that particular person who's looking at me to know. This is what I'm trying to advocate for. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, yes, it does. And you've mentioned something. You mentioned something interesting about how people in the society perceive activism. You know, sometimes people think activism must be loud to be real. But just as you have said, you know, art and music has different routes. It has different channels how you can communicate. Probably if I start with you, Carola, in your experience, what kind of impact has your musical journey had that people might not have noticed immediately? Think about it this way. Have you ever gotten feedback from someone saying, you know, your work made me to speak up, or your work helped me to heal through a certain stage or problem that I'm going through? Has there been that shift, the conversations, you know, somebody feeling seen, or someone changing their mind because they have been, what's the word I'm looking for? They have been touched by what you do, or they have been impacted by what you do?
Yeah. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Dollar. Nice to hear you, Dollar. Hope to meet you soon. To get to know you. What I'll say, Joy, is that first of all, for me, I've faced a lot of restrictions from the media. That most of the work that I really wrote for my country, for my people, for change, for Africa, most of it has never been heard on radio, you know. And imagine, I started music in '88, but most of my stuff is not even played in radios, especially because my work is always considered to be against whatever regime is in power. And as I told you, we had the Nyerere era, which was different. Everybody was a revolutionary, so revolutionary songs were like these songs of the time. But then later, other leaderships came. Mkapa's time, I cannot talk much about Mkapa's time because it wasn't so different from Nyerere. When it comes to art, I didn't feel restricted. But at that time, there were changes. Before, we had only one radio station called Radio Tanzania Dar es Salaam, which was a national radio. And that radio was also commissioned to censor songs. Sometimes they were not only censored because of their political messages. Sometimes songs were just censored because maybe the language that was used by the people was not the language that was acceptable by society at that time. So censorship started with Radio Tanzania, even in Nyerere's time. There was a lot of censorship. So most of the songs you heard recorded at Radio Tanzania were censored before they came out. So there was no way to know exactly how many songs were out there, which maybe said something that would, was disagreeable with the regime of the time, because now we cannot access them because they were never recorded. But during now Kikwete time, that is when I started feeling, that I'm really marginalized, I'm isolated, because all the powerful radios, I'll come with a whole album, maybe 8, 9 songs. Maybe I've only written one love song in my life. I'm not a romantic, so you take the whole album to the radio, and they will not play it, and then they'll say to you, "Oh, your messages are political." And I've never written a political song. I've never sat down and say, I'm writing a political song. I write songs which address the situation that I'm facing at that time, or the situation that my country is facing at that time. I've always written songs that talk on behalf of people who are around me, or my own feeling about what is going on around me. So they will not, even the radios station, especially when the radios became commercialized. No, nobody was playing my songs. You take a whole album, they'll pick one love song, and that is the song they're going to go with, because they're afraid the regime will be. And I'm telling you, from the Quetta time, that's when people started telling me, why do you always write songs with this? Why can't you just write simple things that everybody can party to? And and that's the way people think. And imagine how many people we could have had today who are saying what they really feel like saying if there were no restrictions, and how much change these people could have, or these artists could have brought to our community. But it was very restricted. So even the radio stations would not play your songs, because now most radios were affiliated by, with the party. They just wanted to be, relevant, and they just, some of them were just in business. And I don't want to mention particularly, names of radios, but there was one radio from when I came back with my first album in '98. I recorded it in Germany. When I came back, they would use that my music to make other people who are writing something that was not muziki wa dance, something different, like in Kiswahili. They would make them listen to my songs so that they can get ideas on how to write music or how to write in Kiswahili. But they will never play the same music that they make these people listen to. They'll never play it on radio, because it was doomed to be too political. And for me, I've never seen myself as as writing politics. I've never written politics. I write social. I write songs about, wakati when there's rushwa, I write about rushwa. When there's anything that occurs in the country that I feel needs to be addressed, I will use my songs to address. And it's not like I plan. It's just that it's because that is something I think about all the time. That is something that preoccupies my mind most of the time. The rights of the people's rights, how development of the country, the economy position of the country, people in villages, people in cities. These are my personal experiences, and the only way I can I can feel comfortable and feel like I've done something for my community is to use music. And when the radios, all radios, and I'm telling you, this one radio was so strong that it controlled all the other radio stations. So when your song is not played in this particular radio, then no other radios will play your songs. And a lot of Tanzanians will, even the Bongo Flava people will tell you that they've also experienced that for one reason or another. Either you disagree with the management, or you criticize them, or you want to say something that they do not agree with, or you want to say something that they feel threatened by. So from Kikwete's era, my music was never played. So the only people who react directly to me and say, wow, we love what you're writing, are those who have heard me live, those people who have maybe come to a rehearsal and enjoyed something, those people I've worked in projects with. But, generally as a country, my music has never gone where I really wanted it to go. My music has never reached the people I intended the music to reach, because there was always barriers. There were always, radio stations which are monopolizing the market and everything, and they decide who goes and who doesn't. And you either change, or if you don't change, then you have, you're in trouble. And when I was researching a little about this evening, a friend of mine reminded me there's this amazing singer we have in TZ, and her name is Saida Karoli. Saida Karoli is one of my favorite musicians. She came from the village. She comes from Bukoba, and she came to town and she had 8 songs. But there was an accident of this ship called MV Bukoba, which it took a lot of lives, and a lot of people from Bukoba were affected because this ship was coming from Bukoba to Mwanza. So you can imagine that small area, they lost so many people, and it was really just people. It was carelessness. If we're in other countries, these people would be sued. Things would have happened. And this lady sang a song because she's from that area, and she sang this song, and this was during Kappa time, and it showed how she represented the vibes of the Bukoba people who were the victims, of the whole Ajali. They put her in jail for 3 months. And, when she came out, she had to reorganize the song, make it softer for it to be part of the album. And so I'm telling you, we don't have so many examples in Tanzania because most people in Tanzania were not really political, in terms of, not much activism in singing, except maybe people like Remy Ongala, who's gone. Where very few people were really standing with the people. So even when you want that impact to be there are barriers which are put between you and your audience. And these barriers are still there today. There's still a monopoly of radio, especially commercial radio stations. That's why our radio is so boring. They're either discussing football or playing all these sexual, explicit songs and other, things which I don't even want my grandchildren or my children to listen to, but that is what is promoted. And these people, all radio stations do the same thing. They say they do the same programs, they do the same songs, and none of them will ever play a song that, for example, touches, criticizes or is against the government or whatever, or the regime or whatever is going on in the country. Any criticism is taken as, if you criticize, you're taken to be an enemy. So I've never enjoyed maybe the impact I have, but once in a while when somebody comes inbox and say, man, I've been listening to this song. This song you came out, I don't know, you brought it came out in your album in 98, or it came out in your album in 2007, and I never knew what you were saying, but now I can hear, now I know why they wouldn't let us hear these songs. For me, that gives me such a good feeling, because I feel, okay, my work was not, for nothing. I've touched a few people. And there are people who know of your songs, and they will not discuss them live. They'll listen to them in their houses, but they will never talk about them. But when they meet you, they tell you, hey, you touched me on this. There's one song I wrote a long time ago, called Mbona Tunazama. It's an African song. Everybody loves that song, and now I'm so happy because some of the youngsters are doing that song on the stage, and I really allow them. I want them to do them. And there's another one I did, which was like Wakati Nihu, and this Wakati Nihu, it's not even a very strong song, but the message was, against, the bribery and Arusha in general. So these songs were completely not allowed for me. So I've never really enjoyed that. I've never reached, not enjoyed, I've enjoyed. I've never reached the number of people I would have loved to reach because of all these other restrictions, because it's not just what you say, it's not just what the government doesn't want, it's that the media is also controlled in such a way they will only play songs which are safe. Yeah. Thank you. I hope I've expressed myself enough, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it like that, because for many people, they think impact always comes with loud support and big platforms. But for you, of course, you've taken us through one of the many challenges you've endured during your times, and even which is there still until date. but sometimes you're doing important work in a season where the system doesn't necessarily reward you or recognize you. You see, for you, the way you have explained in terms of not getting enough airplay or getting, the big push that you needed, but just from this few individuals that actually were getting what you're trying to do, or resonate with what you're trying to speak on. And I also want to hear from Lydia if it's the same. Those few believers matter because they're proof that your work is not useless and you're doing something, you're making a shift in the society. Even the way you have said, Carola, sometimes they label that it's not convenient or it doesn't fit mainstream. And I know that takes a whole different kind of strength to, keep creating, keep working, keep pushing when the numbers don't really validate you. I want to hear from you, Lydia, on your side. Do you share same sentiments with Carola? Probably, have you had moments where you realize that your music probably didn't entertain or it didn't move somebody or didn't make an impact in society? Or generally, did someone approach you and tell you, you helped me go through this hard times, you helped me heal, and this gave me the words to speak up or make a shift in society? Do you have such moments that your work has created such impact?
Thank you so much once again. And Carola, nice to meet you too. And I'm looking forward to seeing you soon, hopefully. And I'll say yes. In terms of the radio, first of all, radio, I usually feel like they choose what they want to play. And mostly they go to entertainment and they don't pick on edutainment. So in terms of my music making an impact to the society, I will go to what I'm actually working on right now because I'm so much into women's voices and how music changes how we see ourselves as women. And so, I mean, my music has been able to, I've been able to do a bit of mentorship. And I started a small um, foundation that's called the Pink Pulse Media, where I'm trying to bring young women and girls, I think 13 to 25-year-olds, to learn about music and mostly about music production and engineering. Because as an activist, I felt like there was a gap because mostly as musicians, we go to the studio and it's men who decide that your sound is supposed to sound like this, your voice is supposed to sound like this, and so I felt like there's a gap, and we need to train young girls on how to own the music, how to own their voices in the society. And recently, I was in the United States for a program by the Institute of the Musical Arts, where they also train young girls, and they're like my mentors too, on ways to record and do sound engineering. And one girl from Kenya actually called me on WhatsApp, and she was like, she's 12, 13, 12. She told me, she calls me Auntie Dola, but she's a daughter to somebody that I know. And she was like, Auntie, we've written songs, we have songs, and in my group we girls, and there are also girls who are Muslims, And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And she told me, when you come back, I want you to record me. And I told her that will be really, really nice. And I shared this with my mentors back in the United States. And they were really, really pleased. And they said, make sure you do this. So coming back to that, we see that young girls look up to us when we take up on roles that we feel like society does not allow women or does not allow young people to own. So there's that ownership. You feel like women can actually now be in the studio, because most of the times we knew that these were men dominated jobs. And yeah, so in my small circle, I believe that we do inspire. And we've also had a performance at the UN, at the UN, head office, and I sang one of my songs that's called Mama Analia. And in as much as this was an international forum where not everybody understood or Swahili, some women were crying, and my group was like, wow, because the song, it was, they didn't understand what it said, but they felt what the music was talking about. They felt the pain or the burden of women, and and I hope that whatever they carried from the forum, they took it into practice or to help the other women who are not able to speak for themselves. So yes, I would say that music and art can really change the society, because I mean, we can't have like what do you call it, our mindsets are usually on music, and policies cannot change without our mindsets being changed. So yeah, so I feel like um we as musicians, we help to shape how people think and how people feel, and we make people know, I mean, how we relate to each other through music. And nitaachia hapo, but yes,
Yeah, I
I feel like I've
understand
said
you.
too much.
And yeah, no, 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 no. You have a very valid point there. And first of all, congratulations on starting that mentorship program.
Asante.
I feel like that is a very bold and important move. That's a different kind of impact you're actually creating in the society. Mentorship is actually not, it's not the loud type of activism, but it's a type that has impact and actually brings very huge strides and changes to the future, especially for you that you're targeting young girls, teenagers. And yeah, you're right. Music is not just about the voice on stage and that's it. But the fact that you are creating opportunities and talent, focusing on behind the scenes. The sound engineers, as you've mentioned, the producers, the technical crew, everybody who's usually involved in this aspects. And the fact that you have noticed the gap that women are often missing in those spaces. And it's not just because they cannot do it, but it's because, nobody opens the door to show them their path, that this is what they can do. And I'm glad that you've already initiated that. And the fact that you're training these young women to occupy these spaces, engineering, and the whole ecosystem in the industry, that's creating a really a pipeline for change. That's real change, which these are some of the things that Carola has said that hindered her from doing one thing or another during her time. And I'm glad that these are some of the things that I think for you and her in this industry, it creates that pipeline that is the much needed change that we need to see in society. Let's talk about culture. And yeah, let's just talk craft, culture, and storytelling. They are powerful. Yeah, that is something we all agree. And Carola, I know for you, this is a huge challenge or obstacle that you often have to go past, if I may say. Carola, how do you use, for you, for example, since your craft is done mostly in Kiswahili, how do you use language, probably humor or metaphors or traditions and culture to carry that message that will be able to be understood by the society, especially in some of these spaces that we are living now, where direct confrontation doesn't work? how do you use probably, let's say, language like Kiswahili? Because even sometimes you'll find that a proverb in a song can do what a whole prayer statement can't do. How do you take advantage of the culture and language and traditions, humor, all that?
First of all, before I answer this, Dola, thank you so much for that project. We need it. We need it so much. I always say, once we have our own, once we have female producers, once we have female who are writing their own minds and not having men writing songs for them and stuff like that, we're going to be able to have a voice that is more clear. It's more us. So I really commend your project, and I wish you all the best in that. I'll tell you, Joy, the language is everything. Language is everything. Don't let anybody under. When I write, I can write songs in English and in other languages, but I use Kiswahili for Tanzania because Kiswahili is our language. We grew up. Everybody in Tanzania can speak Kiswahili, even if you're in the remotest of villages. That is a language of communication for everybody. So there's so many ways of using Kiswahili. Maybe personally, I cannot say I've used it. Maybe hiding messages or using metaphors or using some amazing language to. But there are other people who are even male who have done that, like Maende Vitali. That is one of the people I really love, and he doesn't just write songs directly saying all the time what he wants to say, but the way the people get the message. But because the people get the message, even the leaders get the message, because we all speak the same language. So for us, it doesn't really help much even when you hide. Once the message is reached and people are amplifying it and people are using it and people are praising it, then you're just as much in trouble as as anybody who has written like direct saying A, B, C as it is. So it doesn't help much. But that is one way I tell young people that I work with from time to time that you don't have to be bold or you don't have to say everything the way it is. Sometimes you can play around the song in such a way that even when they catch you, they take you to the police station or they want to take you to court. And they cannot really prove that the song is talking directly about something. And that is the culture that is in the music in Tanzania for a long time, not just Mziki wa Dansi, but also Taarab. In Taarab, there are a lot of hidden messages that you can interpret the way you want to, depending on what you're listening to. But most of the time, these hidden messages don't stay hidden, because even the people who are leading you, the people who are against you, the people who want to do bad things to you, they also know the language and they know what you're hiding. So it doesn't help us much. What will help us, I think, is to be able to write songs that are not just how do I want to put this in English? Songs which are not just necessarily praising. I don't want to, for example, one of the things I always tell people, many fellow musicians, I say I never like to sing about it when in all my songs that I've mentioned leaders, or I mention leaders who are dead. Why? Because the living ones, I don't know. Some of them start so well, and then you sing so much about them, and then when they go bad, you stay with that for the rest of your life. So for me, I personally I only sing when I mention leaders in my songs. I mention leaders who are dead, who fulfilled the thing, who did their thing up to the end, who left me thinking that they were great. Then I can mention them. It's very dangerous when you're always singing about the current president. I'll talk a little bit about I'll give you an example. that since Mama Samia came in, the first time she came in, we all were like, people were really hopeful. We thought, okay, this is change, this is a lady, this is, yeah, this is a woman. And so many young stars who I'm working with, especially hip hop artists, came to me and say, "Oh, sister, we have to do a song about Mama." And when I say no to them, they couldn't understand because I say, yeah, but I don't really know her yet. And I say I don't feel safe to sing about somebody who has not finished. At least finish your term, finish your a term of leadership. Then when you go out, I can now decide whether you are good enough for me to praise or when you're not good enough for me to praise. But it is something that people do, and now I've realized that they don't only do that just because they want to be relevant. Most of them do it because they think by doing that they will get support when they want support from the government. So even those songs are not really from their hearts. Most of these songs are very hypocritical, and that's why maybe they don't even stay long in waves because they're not coming from the soul of these people. They're not coming from the way they look at things. They're not coming from them. They're coming from a place where I'm doing this so that I can earn this or I can get this place. And the radio stations are also forced to play certain songs. If you're praising the current regime, oh, your song will be on air 24/7. Everybody will know about you. So they're not doing it because this is what they believe in. And I'm telling you, I've met people who are who have done songs to praise people. And when I talk to them in person, they say, that I'm just doing that, for clout, but I don't even like the person. And that hypocrisy is really bad for us. There's artists who want to make a difference, or as artists who want to say something to change the society, to affect people. It becomes a challenge that we can never win. It's a challenge that we can never overcome. But on top of that, what I wanted to say also is that it's better not to do anything to praise somebody who is in power when maybe most of the people don't, even if it's for money. Because money is not everything. You make money today, but that song stays on. It will be online, it will be on radios, it will be in other places for the rest of your life and beyond your life. And what kind of legacy are you living behind? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? And that also brings another question. People have different things that they feel are legacy. Other people feel like having money, having success, driving expensive cars is success. To some of us, that is not. I don't want my legacy to be I own a Bentley. That's not the legacy I want to leave to my people. I want to leave a legacy that I made a difference to my people. I made a difference to my community, my community. I made a difference to the Tanzanian community. I made a difference to the East African community in one way or another. That is what the kind of legacy I would have loved to leave behind. But not all of us feel that way because you are judged by how much you have. We're living in a time where everybody just think of earning money from the music, but we don't really think of what impact our music has to our society. You know, I don't know if I've answered the question or if I've
Yes, yes,
derailed too much.
you have.
Let me know, Joy.
Yes, you have answered it
Yeah.
vizuri sana. And yeah, probably if I just get to hear from Lydia. Here in Kenya, sometimes ukisema kitu straight ama ukirushia mtu facts, people often misunderstand your message. People get angry and then the whole message just drowns. For you, how do you, because your work leans a lot on voice and storytelling, for you, is it the same as Carola? How do you package hard truth in a way that people can still hear and understand you through language or metaphors or humor or even cultural references.
Well, okay. How I do that? I'm trying to get all that in one so that I speak about it well. I try to I just try to call a spade, but yes, in a more poetic way. Some people get it. Some people actually, as you said, feel offended. But at the end of the day, if it's blue, it's blue. And sometimes we just need to speak about it the way it is, like black and white. In some instances, yes, we do use like metaphor, but you know, we also have to be a little bit um, sensitive, but not so sensitive, like sensitive, so that we meet in a middle ground where we speak what we want to speak, in as much as the person we are addressing, for instance, feels offended, but at the end of the day, they will carry this thing home, rather than probably doing something and then, there's this phrase that says, a dead man tells no tales. We don't want to get in a point where, as artists, we are gagged or we are being sought after, because our only weapon is music and feeling and emotions. And we don't want to get into, sometimes some of us, we don't want to get into a place where tomorrow your voice will be shut or shut forever. So we need to find a space that is middle, that's balanced, when we're using metaphor and all that. And that's when I think it's important to use metaphor and humor in such situations, and also sometimes to make a very sensitive issue lighter. In as much as we would like to go black and white, we would also still like to make some issues lighter, because it might affect your listener in a instead of building, we might destroy. So not not knowingly, we might destroy and unwillingly. So sometimes we need to be a little bit sensitive. So use of humor is really important. And yeah, so sensitivity also matters when we think of the language that we want to use to convey this information.
I agree with
Yeah.
you. And from that, of course.
Sorry,
Yeah.
can I just pass this while we are live? Somebody who knows Carola has actually, who's also listening. His name is Mado,
Yeah.
and he sent a lot of
Yeah.
love to Carola. Mado
Oh,
of the
wow.
Mad World. So I told
Wow.
him I
Carola,
would take.
Thank you so thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Mado.
Karibu.
Love you back. Yeah.
I'll pass that to Mado.
You've mentioned now, Lydia, there's something, of course, with the elements that you choose to deliver your art or your messages. Of course, not everybody will take it lightly, as much as probably you try to keep it humorous, keep it light. Sometimes you may end up getting in trouble for some of these things that you say or do. And we've seen, of course, women getting attacked for even sometimes for things that men even end up saying freely. So personally or generally, as you have maybe seen or experienced, what are some of some of the challenges, or rather the hardest challenges that women face in creative spaces when they decide to speak up. Of course, Carola has mentioned the issues of being sexualized. I'd like to hear from your personal experiences. How do you also handle, backlash or these challenges without losing yourself? Probably I'll start with Carola. You take us through some of these challenges you have experienced yourself or that you've seen, and how you handle the backlash without getting lost or giving up, and even take us through some of the boundaries that you have learned to set.
Hello, thank you so much. Dollar sent Mado my love back. He's a good person and one of the people who support us. You know what he does. We're at Credible. This is amazing organization that is doing amazing work. Maybe one day East Africa will recognize them. Yeah. So for me, it has been a struggle. It has always been a struggle because you always, as a woman, you have to face certain things maybe twice as hard as the man, because first of all you're already regarded as somebody who is not necessarily important, that is somebody who doesn't have to have a say in even in family settings. I'm blessed to come from a family of very fair people. And my parents were fair, my brothers and sisters were fair. We were brought up to each one of my family member knows how to do every kind of chore, whether it's supposed to be female or male. We were all taught these things. So I didn't come from a background of being marginalized in my own family as a female. So I think that gave me strength, because once I started facing that, and I was in primary school, secondary school, up to when I went to the army, I was a tomboy. I never wanted to put on dresses. I was a different type of a child, but I through being different, you are also judged everywhere you go. Once you are different, you're judged. So I was used to being judged from very early, in life, from maybe primary not too much, but from secondary school. You're starting to know who you are, or you're starting to find out who you want to become. But then there's so many obstacles, and everybody say, oh, you're smoking a cigarette. That is not what female do. This is a male thing. And maybe because of that, today I admit I'm still a smoker. But in my era, that was a cool thing to do. Now it's no longer a cool thing to do, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do that. But when you decide to be yourself, when you decide to be honest, or to be okay with who you are, it's not always very comfortable with everybody who's around you, especially men who want to put you down and want to tell you you're a woman, you have to behave in a certain way, you have to do this in this way. If you're not doing this, then you're not doing, you're not doing the right thing. We go through that a lot as women, more than men, and it does affect us even when we come to express ourselves. I've worked with a lot of girls who are in music, and some of them will go to a studio. I hear maybe the ideas they have, before they go to the studio. I always like to hear if somebody is a songwriter. I like to hear their song before I can introduce them maybe to somebody who can do something for them. So when I hear these songs, by the time they go to the studio, what they come out with is totally different from what I heard. And what I heard probably would have taken them farther, would have made more sense to people who are going to listen to them. But now they have, this is a male-dominated field. And because, I can take insults. I've been insulted by kids I can give birth to, but it doesn't bother me, because I know eventually they will find out, that they were wrong. when they grow up, when they see things differently, they'll eventually know that they were wrong. So I don't even bother to sit and argue with people who are who are negative just because I am who I am and I live the life I want to live. I've chosen the field that I'm living. I'm doing. I don't allow them to. I don't allow them to put me in a box. You know, I show them all the time that yes, I like to work with you, but we have to respect each other. You have to respect me, I respect you. You don't respect me, I walk away. I don't have to argue. But it's not easy. For a lot of girls, this is not easy. It's very easy to make a girl, a man, for a guy to make a girl feel small than it is for a girl to make a man feel small. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking on behalf of men. I don't know. Maybe they feel the same. But it's very easy for a man to say something that will be so detrimental to a girl that will make them, do what probably they didn't want to do. I've seen people starting their career looking natural, looking amazingly, with, with a personality that describes them. You see them and you know that is the personality of so and so. Immediately they get into the music scene. They start putting their wigs on them. They start pushing some of them to even bleach their skin. I've been approached many times by men who were supposed to help me in the you should bleach your skin a little. If you're lighter, it will be easy to sell you. So it depends on how strong you are, but you face a lot of things, and as a woman already, you have to think of how you have to look good. You have to. There's so many things to you have to do before you are accepted by society, especially as a musician. So personally, I should say I was just born strong, maybe. So I cannot say that for everybody. I was born strong, and and I stay strong today. It doesn't matter what you throw at me. If you're saying something about me that is not true, it doesn't bother me. You can say it, 100 times. And when you say something that is true, and I think it's something that I need to explain, I'll explain. But I do not want to be put down by anybody just because I'm a woman. I do not want my decisions to be challenged just because I'm a woman. Challenge me as an artist. Tell me you're a bad artist. Tell me you are not good enough. But don't tell me as a woman ABC, as a woman ABC. That doesn't will not go down well with me. So I think my stand has always been that you have to be strong, you have to stand on what you believe in, and to make sure that you know who you are before you meet these people. Don't let as women, don't let anybody decide your look. I would never put on a wig, and that is just my thing. I don't, people who like to put on wigs, that is their business. Personally, I don't want to. So don't make me feel small or not attractive enough just because I have dreadlocks and I don't have a wig on. So there's so many things that we're dealing with, but at the end of the day, it's your own personal strength as a woman. It's your own personal strength as an artist, especially artists, women artists, to say, this is who I am, this is how I want to define myself, and nobody is going to change this unless he's adding value to what I'm already doing. Yeah.
I think you have even answered the next. Yeah, you have even answered the next part that I wanted to engage you in. But as we wind up the conversation, before Lydia can also share with me some of the challenges and of course her parting shot as we close the conversation, I'll throw it back to you, Carola, after Lydia has given her challenges and her parting shot, because she's also needed somewhere, and Pia Carola, I also need to release you. But as you answer this in one frame, along with your challenges, Lydia, in a nutshell, what still keeps you going with all that is happening? When everything is heavy, and you see even in this digital era that we live in, when the internet is so loud and full of so many obstacles, what still keeps you going, and what message do you have for that young woman artist who wants to, use their platform, use their voice, use their art to speak about one or two things that she wishes to see happening in the society, but, is too afraid to speak up, or fears the cost, or, has the fear of judgment or the challenges that come along with it. So take us through, first of all, briefly, the challenges you have encountered and what keeps you going, and what message you have for that young artist that wants to come up in this space.
Okay, asante sana tena. Well, I'll start with the challenges. Being abused is wide, and I've gone through abuse myself from producers, and that's why how I came to think of how I came to start the production house and the Pink Pulse Media. And it happened that I when I was still like very new in the music industry, and we were good because my very first song was nominated for Kora Awards and that was an African international platform. So that was a good thing because I was very young and I was just trying out. And so when I went to South Africa for these awards, the many people wanted my music. And I remember one of Kenyan great artists, the late Achieng Abura, may she rest in peace. She told me, Lydia, if you are not ready to share your music right now, don't give them the CD. And that thing has gone with me till today. And that's why I decided to be a mentor to younger people. And sorry, I'll go back to the production part. So this time I came back home and I wanted to produce, and I would take all the money I had and I went to the studio and I got somebody to record for me. I actually went to a very known studio and I spoke to the producer and he told me, I will record you for free if you have somebody to help you. So I got a male producer who was very excited to work in this big studio. And he told me, just give me all the money you have and I'll work on your music. And because of the passion, I took everything I had. And this guy never delivered. He never did my job. He actually just gave me like a song or two out of a whole album. And I took my band there and we were recording live. I was paying for transport, I was paying for lunch, with the little that I had. And I remember when he started mistreating me, not giving me my music when I needed it, started working on other musicians, calling my own band to play for these other musicians, and I felt a little bit disrespected. And I remember I actually cried. I shed tears in front of the big producer and I said, this guy has refused with my music. It was really frustrating. And that's when I sat down before I even knew about this production school in the US. And I told myself, I need to learn how to cook my own music, how to be in the kitchen and make my own meal. And that's where the passion came from, that I needed to have a studio. I needed to learn the craft of making my own music, to learn the craft of giving music my own voice. So yeah, that abuse is there, and it's a high time we learn how to also make our own food in the kitchen. You asked what keeps me going. What keeps me going is the fact that we still have a lot of and we still have this gap, and we still need to empower the young girls and also women, to show them that we can do this. Because I just became a producer recently. Like, I'm still hopeful that if we mentor our young girls, then we can still do it. And the message I have for the young artists, young women artists, is that we are there as your mentors. You can learn from us. And also, sometimes it's good to take it slow when we learn how the industry is. Because going back to what the late Achieng' Abura told me, when she said, Lydia, if you're not ready to give industry, probably they might have a hit song. And this hit song might change my lifestyle. I need to do certain things to look like somebody else, but I'd like to tell them to take it slow, because out there things are different. Take time to learn. Take time to learn from people who have been there. Take time to ask questions for people like Carola, like what do I need to do to improve? What do I need to learn? How do I need to learn to package my music? Am I following the right direction so that I don't find myself depressed? Because I've heard of musicians who have killed themselves, even actors, even great actors in Hollywood actors have killed themselves out of depression, and because they didn't have a mentor, they didn't know how to embrace art, and also how to present their art to the society. And as still talking about this, I would like to invite all of you guys for an international Women Artists Day that's called SWAN, where we celebrate women artists every month. And we picked the last Saturday of the month of March to celebrate writers, all kinds of art. It doesn't matter what kind of art you do, so long as it's creative. So this year we will be at the National Theatre at the Wasani from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it is totally free, absolutely free. And we invite all of you to join us. And in the space where you are, because March is usually the month of women, where we celebrate women, in whichever space you are, and you know any artist that you would like to celebrate or buy a gift to, kindly do so on the 28th. Present the gift to them. You can take a picture and give in your social media platforms, you can just put a hashtag and say Swan Day celebrations, because we will be turning 18 years, celebrating Swan Day 18 years in Kenya. And we're still going on in our small space as we celebrate women in arts, including the women who have organized for this event, because this is art on itself. So we celebrate you all. Asante sana, and have a beautiful evening.
Thank you so much. Lydia, just before you drop off, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining our conversation this evening. Thank you so much for all your insights and sharing what your platform is all about, especially what you're doing for the younger generation right now. I know we'll be conversing more in a different platform, and I'm glad that we've crossed each other's paths. So I'm really looking forward to our future engagements, even with Carola. Asante sana, Lydia.
Thank you very much.
Feel free to drop off the conversation as I finish with Carola. Yes.
Asante sana, Lydia. I just want to say asante, and what you're doing is amazing, and truly looking forward to meeting you soon. I'll find you. Don't worry.
Same here. Asante sana.
Asante. So, Carola, as we wind up, probably a parting shot from you. What still keeps you going, even with your at the age you are right now and all the challenges you have experienced for so many years, especially in the kind of society that you live in? What keeps you still going, and what message do you have for that young woman artist who wants to get into this space, but because of one or two things that you've seen out there, what message can you speak to them as we wind up the conversation?
Thank you very much, Joy. It's been an amazing session, and I wish we had a longer discussion. I wish we had more people to come and have their input. But as you say, at my age, I'm 60.